Well, hello. Hello, everyone. I popped on a little bit early today. And we'll see who's here. Like I said, it's like I'm every week StreamYard does something a little bit different, and I'm trying to figure it out. So it's like I'm brand new every week. Um, I know that some people are probably thinking, "Oh, it's not noon yet, and she's already on." That's okay. So I'm sitting here in my office, and I'm looking out at the park setting. There's a little park just beyond the small parking lot in the back of the building, and there's a lake with lily pads. It's a great place to be to regulate your central nervous system. And my grandchildren and my husband, their Boppy, are in the park. So I was just watching them, and they were waving and blowing kisses. So yeah. Again, I'm still trying to figure out StreamYard. It used to tell me like who is here and how many people are watching, and now it doesn't do that. So I don't know. If anybody's an expert in StreamYard and want to give me like a short tutorial for free, I would love that. So welcome to True North Tuesday. It's almost noon. We got a couple minutes before noon. I'm just going to set the stage a little bit before I go live or meet with a client. I prepare myself, mind, body, and soul. And one of the things I'm doing now is I'm just lighting a candle, and this one just happens to be an abundance, unlimited mindset candle. It could be any candle. It's the intent behind the candle. It doesn't have to be a certain color or a certain fragrance or a certain type of candle. It doesn't have to be that. Yes, are there people out there that are going to say, oh yeah, if you're doing meditation, you have to have this type of candle? Yeah, that's them. They do them and I do me. I try to make spirituality or all of this accessible to people. Yeah, some people have rules around it, and I'm more flexible. So that's a little behind the scenes look at Laurie Lynnsee. I'm just going to put my match over here. I like to set it in a certain spot, and then when it's totally cooled down, I toss it in the garbage. So welcome. It's almost noon. My gratitude alarm will go off soon. Oh, I already have people texting me saying, are you live already? Sherry, hi, Sherry. Welcome in. I started a little earlier because my grandkids were here, and they went out to the park behind the building. So, so let's get started. There's my 12 o'clock gratitude alarm. I don't even know. Can you hear that when that goes off, Sherry? Can you hear my alarm go off? Maybe you can't. So today for True North Tuesday, our question of the week is, what guidance becomes available when I settle first? So welcome everyone to another True North Tuesday. I'm so glad you're tuning in. I'm Laurie Lynnsee, and every Tuesday we come together to explore what it means to trust ourselves again through the lens of nervous system regulation, intuition, science, spirituality, and real life experiences. Well, hello, the lovely Elizabeth is with us here too. Oh, Sherry, you did hear my alarm. Perfect. Not that I want you to hear the alarm. I'm just curious. My mic is only supposed to pick up my voice, but it picks up everything else. So when my grandchildren return from their little hike, you're going to hear them in the next room because their dad is putting together my couch. So that's super exciting. So whether you're joining me live or catching the replay, I am so happy you're here. And hopefully those of you that are here will interact with me, and let's have a conversation today. Be sure to say hello if you're here right now, or if you're watching the replay, and tell me where you're joining from. I already know the two people that have already said in the chat. I know where they're from. If you feel comfortable, you can share that in the chat. And I'm going to say this again. StreamYard used to tell me how many people were joining us, and it doesn't do that anymore. Oh, they moved it. It does tell me. My phone is still going off. So again, if you're watching the replay, I'd love to hear from you too. Tell me where you're tuning in from. So this community isn't just about listening, it's about learning from one another. And I think Sherry said it best last night at Meditation Monday. What did you say, Sherry? You said you're so thankful for this group because we learn together. Am I remembering that correctly, Sherry? One One thing you have to know me is I'm not going to be your guru. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I'm going to help you with the tools to get to where you want to be. That's my mission. I am a teacher by trade. Sherry says, yes, exactly. So that's my goal, is to work with women who are in the second half of their life to start trusting themselves again. And I'm not going to be the type of person that you're going to keep showing up every week. I'm going to help you build a toolbox so eventually you can go out on your own and live life from a regulated, or getting back to a regulated place. So this question this week is simple. Oh, Sherry, that's so kind. You taught me how to bring my emotions back into check. I love that. Thank you for sharing that, Sherry. I'm going to click that and see if it shows up. Oh, it does. See, I'm learning all the time. Thank you for sharing that, Sherry. So the question for this week is, what guidance becomes available when we first settle? And I think many of us spend much of our life searching for answers. And what happens, my tummy is doing flip-flops. I think most of us spend much of our life searching for answers when perhaps we already know the answer, but we just need our lives and our minds and our bodies to be quiet enough to hear it. So I'm going to share a personal story. And this happened years ago. I was still teaching at the time, and I was teaching third grade. And I can say that because most of my career I taught third grade. This was before I was married. I was a single lady living on my own, living the life. And I had one of the most intense intuitive experiences that, to this day, it's probably the most intense experience I had. And all day long, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was happening with my mom. I just knew it. Like, I knew it in my core. I didn't know what it was. I didn't, nobody called me and said something's going on with your mom, or I didn't have any other signs. I just knew it in my gut. And again, nobody had contacted me. I'd received no phone calls. There was no logical reason for me to feel this way, but I carried the heaviness in my body the entire day. And I can't say it was anxiety. It was more like a deep knowing in my gut that something significant had happened to my mother. And when I got home that afternoon, I remembered almost not wanting to answer the phone when it rang because I knew it was my mom calling. And I had this overwhelming sense that whatever was waiting for me was going to change everything. And it did. So the phone rang, and it was my mom. And she said, "Laurie, I have some news." And before she could even tell me, I remember saying to her, "I know you do. I just don't know what it is yet." And that was the day that I learned that my mom had Parkinson's disease. Followed by a month later, she was diagnosed with hairy cell leukemia. So she went through a lot in a short period of time. And she faced both of those diseases until she died probably 10 years later. And I've reflected many times on that moment. Like, how did I know that that was coming? I've always been somebody who senses energy. I've always been able to, I know something's going to happen. But I didn't always have the words to explain it. I just simply knew it. So have you ever experienced something like that? Like, something's coming in and it's huge, but you have no clues. Like, nobody called you. You didn't have any clues. You didn't get an email. It just happened. Because some part of you already knew. So I'd love to hear your stories in the chat. So experiences like these make me very curious. And I'm curious about, what is intuition? Was it a coincidence that I was feeling this way and then my mom called me? Was it just a coincidence? Was it my nervous system picking up subtle information that I wasn't consciously aware of? Or was there some deeper connection between my mom and I? Okay, I'm going with the last one. My mom and I could talk telepathically to each other. It wasn't like, "Hey, Mom, how you doing?" in our heads. But we could communicate like emotions. And she lived in Seattle and I lived in Minnesota. So it wasn't like she lived next door. So this was something that spanned miles, thousands of miles. The truth is, I don't really know how it all works. And I'm comfortable with saying that. I think sometimes we rush to explain things instead of becoming curious about them. And if you know me, I'm curious about intuition. I'm curious about how intuition works. I'm curious about how regulating our central nervous system makes our inner voice clear. I'm curious about those things. Do I have all the answers? No, I don't. I'm a learner just like you. And that's the reason I love talking about science and spirituality. And in this department, the science would be neuroscience. I think what they are studying and measuring right now in neuroscience is amazing. Science continues to discover remarkable things about our brain, heart, and nervous system, our emotions, and our relationships. And I've been sharing that all this month through the Coherent Heart. And next month, I'm going to be talking about how frequency and healing is involved in all of that too. Oh, I love it. Sherry was just saying, I call my intuition my spidey senses. And I have other people that call it that too. I just have this spidey sense. I'm going to do that fun thing again and click it and put it up. See, I learned something new and now I'm going to apply it. Yeah, and other people might call it something else. You know, we all have intuition, and I'm going to get to that. And I know if you have watched me before, you've heard me say that. So science is now starting to study these things and measure them. And spirituality reminds us that not everything meaningful can be neatly measured. So science wants to measure everything. And us spiritual people are like, no, it just is. I don't have to explain it. It just is. But I think there's room for both of those conversations at one table. So let me ask you something. Have you ever walked into a room and immediately felt something was different before anyone said a word? Has that ever happened to you? To me, that happens daily. It happens to every room I walk into. As a teacher, being around 30, 25 souls every day, I could feel the energy. Look who's coming in. This would be, oh, thank you so much. This is my granddaughter, Harper, one of the loves of my life. And she just brought me a flower from the park. Do you want to say hi to everybody?
Hi.
Hi. She's one of my love bugs. Are you going to listen to me for a little while?
Yeah.
So my question was, have you ever walked into a room and immediately felt something was different? Sherry says, hi, Harper. Sherry's my friend. Elizabeth said, yep, that she's experienced that. I think we've all experienced it even before we knew that we had intuition. Have you ever experienced that where you feel like you know what mommy and daddy are feeling before?
I want to talk what you speak on now.
What do you want to say?
I am Papa, and my middle name is Jim, and my last name is Claire.
That's right. She was telling her whole name. She's a big girl. And here comes another grandchild. So everybody's here now. Everybody's here. Do you want to go sit outside? And we're going to go to lunch
My
after.
brother's name is Ted.
Yeah.
My brother's name is Teddy, and his middle name is Scott.
Oh, yeah, I forgot that.
And sometimes we call him Theodore.
Sometimes we do.
And then his last name is Quinn.
Yeah, same as yours and same as mine. Okay, so let me finish this and then we'll go to lunch.
I gave
Okay.
it.
Thank you so much. So I'll see you guys in a little bit.
It's the greeting.
So as you can see, once a teacher, always a teacher. So, oh, there's somebody else dinging something. Harper, do you want to get ice cream when I'm done?
Yeah.
Okay, then go out in the other room and I'll be right there.
Where's the ice cream?
Where's the ice cream, she asked.
Where's
Sometimes we have to use bait. So, have you ever walked into a room and you had no idea, but you sensed something was up? And maybe you find out later there was an argument. Somebody had an argument in the room. Maybe someone was grieving something and you just felt this intense sadness. Maybe someone was excited. Or bribery. Yeah, that would be your word for it. I'm not going to say bribery. It's a temptation, right? To get them to do what I want. And maybe somebody felt excited and you could just feel it and you have no idea why. Science is beginning to measure that. Can you believe it? So tell me in the comments if you've experienced it, and maybe share something that you experienced walking in the room. I used to tell my students when they were naughty, I would just say to them, you know what? I already know what happened. Kind of my brain tells me stuff. So why don't you just tell me, and then let's work it out through there. Because I already know if they hit so-and-so. Because like my guides say, oh yeah, you're absolutely right. Having a teacher that was an empath, I'm sure was hard for some students because they couldn't get away with anything. Sherry said I could tell my boss was in the office without even seeing her. Yeah, you can pick up on other people's energy, whether they are alive or have passed on. Like, you know, when somebody sneaks up behind you, you can sense that energy. Why is that? What is our body doing to give us that information? Again, all those things makes me curious, and science is now beginning to start answering those questions. They have tools to measure some of those things. So many of us have had these experiences, and sometimes we describe it as I felt the tension in the room, or the room just felt peaceful. I felt somebody's sadness. And whether we understand exactly what's happening or not, our bodies are constantly gathering information. And sometimes we are consciously aware of it, and sometimes we're not. So the Heart Math Institute, under Dr. Roland McCready, has found that our heart produces an energy field that extends 3 feet, at least 3 feet around our body. That's our heart. And that he is theorizing that we're able to pick up things because we're reading it through that energy field. 20 years ago, were they saying anything like that? No. So interesting stuff. Elizabeth just shared something. It says you can sense when a place is not warm and friendly, but cold. Went to church where I did not feel peace, and the congregation was not friendly, and I knew that before I actually experienced it. Yeah. And where does that come from? I think so many of us have those stories. So one thing we do know is that the more regulated our central nervous system becomes, the easier it is to notice those subtle signals instead of reacting automatically. So I have another question for you. Have you ever felt someone else's emotions before they told you what they were feeling? Does that ever happen to you? Like, I remember one time I was meeting a friend for lunch, and we were high school friends. We were meeting for lunch. We'd probably graduated maybe within 5 years of that date. And we were meeting for lunch, and I walked in and I immediately felt this heaviness in my heart. And I sat down at the table and I said, oh my gosh, what's going on? And she shouted, she screamed at me. She wasn't screaming at me. It's like a pressure release. She screamed, my husband's having an affair. And she had been pushing this down. And when I arrived, it's like, I felt it as soon as I walked. It was a Pizza Hut restaurant. I remember the details like it was yesterday. We were there for the buffet lunch. I mean, come on. We were like newly graduated college students. We had no money, but we were meeting for lunch. I'll never forget that experience for the rest of my life, because I walked in and immediately it was like a ton of bricks had hit me. And then she shared that information. Why did I feel that when I opened the door? And she was across the room. So I'm getting a yes, and I'm getting an absolutely from Elizabeth. So maybe you knew someone who was struggling. Have you ever had that sense of, I should call somebody? I have a feeling that they're not doing very well. And maybe you sense someone's joy before they share the good news. You just feel the excitement before they've even opened their mouth. And we've all experienced things like that. And now science is starting to measure why we're doing that. They're calling it pattern recognition through our central nervous system. So I'd love to hear about your experiences, even if you are watching the replay or you're here live. So I want to talk about a concept of reading the room. And one of the things I've noticed over the years, especially as a teacher, and there's another teacher here watching, is that we know how a classroom feels within seconds. Like you can feel the energy of a room. And not because somebody said anything, it's because things shift. Teachers know exactly what I'm talking about, but so do parents. Parents know when an energy changes. Healthcare professionals see it, counselors, coaches. Many of us spent years learning to read the room. Sherry was just saying that I feel buzzing and chills. Yeah, why do you do that? What's going on that has your body react that way? So maybe it's the experience. Maybe it's our central nervous system noticing patterns. Maybe it's intuition. And perhaps it's all of them, right? So here is another question for you. Do you think intuition is something you're born with, or it's something we become better at as we learn to slow down? Or do you think intuition is only for a select few? What do you think? Do you think it's something that we just all are born with, or it's something we have to develop, or that only certain people have it? So really, there's no right answer. I believe we all are encoded with intuition. We call it different things. Just knowing the feel of a room is part of your intuition. Knowing if you should say yes to a job offer is an intuition. Your daughter dating someone you don't like and you barely know them, that's intuition. Right? So looking ahead, one of my dreams for this community on True North Tuesday is to begin having wonderful conversations. And I'm trying to get us to that point. And I would love to have guests come on and just have a conversation between me and a guest, or a guest and I, if I'm going to say it in the correct English. And somebody who has experience in this area, or this is what they do for a living. And it could be a neuroscientist, a therapist, educators, researchers, meditation teachers, authors, energy practitioners, or simply people with remarkable life experience that could help us all grow. Because that's what this community is about. It's about learning from each other. Yeah, I might be setting the platform and I might be asking the questions, but we all have knowledge here. We all have knowledge. And I'd love for this community to be a place where we can all learn together. So I'm just going to share that a couple of people said, oh, Monica's here. Thanks for coming, Monica. Monica said that she said intuition is innate. I think you're right. I think we're all born with it. We're all encoded with it. And then Sherry says born, but we need to develop it. And I think that's true too, that some people are more in touch with their intuition and some people need to learn how to be in touch. So yes, I think that's a good answer. And then we have Elizabeth said both, born with it, and you have to develop it and recognize its feelings. And I think you're all correct. So here's my invitation. If you know someone who would make a wonderful guest, and it could even be somebody sitting right here watching right now. It could be you, it could be somebody you know, somebody who would love to come on and have these conversations with me. And if so, send me a DM, send me a message, either with your name or some professional that would love to talk to us, because I would love to hear their unique perspective. I would even like if somebody didn't agree with me and we could talk about how they feel about it. I think it's all interesting. Oh yeah, Monica, I love that. Everybody gets a gold star. And that's true. Don't you love it when it's a win-win situation? I love that. Can you hear my grandkids in the background? They're in the other room. My new couch is being put together. That was supposed to come fully assembled. It's being put together right now. So you never know where our conversations might lead. They could lead to my granddaughter telling everybody how old she is and what her full name is. You just never know. So thank you for spending part of your Tuesday with me. And as we move through this week, notice the moments when you begin to feel rushed towards an answer. And before you make that decision, I invite you to pause, to breathe, and to place your hand over your heart. And ask yourself what guidance becomes available when I first settle. So until next Tuesday, I want you to take good care of yourself, listen to your intuition, and waken, remember, and rise. So I'm just going to watch the comments for a little while, see if anybody else has anything to say. And then we're obviously going for ice cream because that's how I tempted them out of the room. So we're probably going to go get lunch and then have ice cream. So like a place like Dairy Queen. You are so welcome, Sherry. I love you too. I have this founding group of women, and they're sitting right here watching today. There's a fourth person out there. At one time, there were 5 people. I would love for people just to say hi, because it's probably people I know, but they don't always comment. And that's okay. If you're not ready to comment, that's fine too. So I'm going to say goodbye. I wish you all a great week. If you're interested in joining us for Meditation Monday, you can always go onto my website and sign up for my newsletter. I do a teaching every week, and this month is all about the coherent heart. Next week, it's all going to be about frequency, vibrational healing, and vibroacoustic therapy. So that's coming up. So I hope you all have a blessed week. Love and light to you all.